I want to talk about Aegon Targaryen. The show clearly wants you to dismiss him. He drinks too much, he hides from his responsibilities, he hurts people. He is shown over and over as the unworthy king at the center of his own family. I am not going to argue against any of that. Aegon has done bad things. He has hurt women. He has made cruel choices. None of that should be ignored. But here is what I want to point out. In a show full of characters who are always performing duty, performing strength, performing virtue, Aegon is the only one who acts like a real person. He is scared, he is confused, he reacts the way an actual human would react to the things happening to him, and that is what makes him the most interesting character in House of the Dragon. The show frames him as the villain. The writing and the performance keep showing us something more layered underneath. By the end of this video, I think you will see why so many fans love him, even when they cannot quite explain why. Let's get into it. First, let's look at who the show clearly set up Aegon to be. The spoiled prince, the lazy son, the drunk, the man who runs from his duties. Every scene in the first season builds the same message: he is not fit to rule. In interviews and marketing, the framing has been the same. Aegon is the punchline. The brother who was crowned because the other option was unacceptable, not because he earned it. The setup is obvious. He is introduced as someone who would rather be anywhere else than at his father's side. He is shown laughing at the wrong moments. He is shown chasing women he should not be chasing. He is shown hiding from his duties. The pattern is clear. The audience is supposed to roll their eyes every time he walks into a room, but something else has been developing alongside that. Over time, both the writing and the performance have leaned harder into Aegon's vulnerability. The actor playing him, Tom Glyn Carney, has steadily added small moments of pain, small looks of fear, quiet beats where you can see a person under the surface, not a caricature. The camera lingers on him when he is alone. It catches him in moments when he is not performing for anyone, and the scripts in Season 2 give him more of those moments than the first season ever did. This is not a writer versus actor situation. It is a collaboration that has slowly turned Aegon into something more complicated than the villain the early framing suggested. The show has clearly noticed what Glyn Carney does well, and it has been writing toward it. Glyn Carney himself has spoken about this. In one interview, he described Aegon as frantic, and said Aegon feels things so deeply that it becomes dangerous. That is not how you describe a villain. That is how you describe someone drowning in his own emotions with no idea how to swim. The early setup was clearly aiming at another Joffrey. Cold, empty, cruel for no reason. But Joffrey did not feel anything. That was the whole point of him. He hurt people because he could, and the absence of any feeling behind it was what made him so terrifying. Aegon is the opposite of that. Aegon feels everything. He just has no tools to deal with it. He does not have the discipline to manage his fear. He does not have the maturity to face his shame. He does not have the strength to stand up to the people who shaped him into what he is. So he runs from all of it. And in the moments when he cannot run, he lashes out. That difference between Joffrey and Aegon is the whole story. The show could have stayed safely in Joffrey territory. Instead, it has been quietly building something much more interesting. Here's what I mean when I say Aegon is the only character who acts like a real person. Look at how the other main characters move through scenes. Rhaenyra speaks like she knows history is watching. Every word is chosen. Even her grief comes out polished. When something terrible happens to her, she responds with a line that could be carved into a statue. She is always the queen, even when she is alone. Even her private moments feel like they have been rehearsed. Daemon always has the smirk ready. Every line is timed. Every breakdown is composed. Even when he is falling apart in a way that looks cinematic. There is always a part of him that knows the camera is on him, and the show plays into that. He is performing danger constantly, and the show frames him as if he is the most interesting person in every room. Alicent is constantly framing her choices as virtuous, even when they are not. She presents herself as the moral one, the careful one, the one trying to hold everyone together. Her real feelings only come out in small private moments, and even then you can see her trying to manage them. She knows how to look like the right kind of woman in any room she enters. Aemond is a wall. You can sense the wounded boy underneath, but he will never show him to you. His stillness is his armor. His silence is his protection. Even when something rattles him, you can see him choosing not to react. That control is a kind of performance too, the performance of being unshakable. These are all performances, carefully written, carefully acted, carefully presented. The characters know the camera is on them and they live up to it. Aegon does not perform anything. He says what he is thinking, even when he should not. He cries when he is hurt. He laughs at the wrong moment. He gets bored in council meetings and shows it. He gets overwhelmed and runs. There is no version of himself he is trying to project. There is only him in the moment reacting to whatever is happening. That makes him uncomfortable to watch. His embarrassment looks like real embarrassment. His fear looks like real fear. His shame looks like the kind of shame that crawls under your skin. Every other character has a layer of polish that protects them from looking foolish. Aegon has nothing. He is exposed in every scene. This is not bad writing. This is very specific writing. It shows you what an unprepared person looks like when he is forced into an impossible job. Most prestige shows cannot help themselves. They want their characters to be sharp, articulate, ready, with the perfect line. Aegon does not get that protection. He stumbles. He says the wrong thing. He gets caught looking pathetic. And that is rarer in television than people realize. It is hard to write a character who is genuinely embarrassing without turning him into a joke. The show does it with Aegon, and it does it more honestly than people give it credit for. I want to be careful here. I am not defending Aegon's worst behavior. He has hurt people. He has hurt women in ways the show does not soften. He has made decisions that cost innocent lives. The show makes sure you see these things clearly. None of that should be brushed aside, and this video is not asking you to forgive any of it. But here is what I keep coming back to. Every major character in this show has done terrible things. Daemon has murdered. Rhaenyra has watched her enemies die without flinching. Aemond has killed a child. Alicent has used her own children as political tools. The Hightowers organized a coup. The Valerians treated their daughters as bargaining chips. Nobody on this show has clean hands. Nobody. The difference is that everyone else dresses it up. They wrap their worst moments in language about duty, honor, prophecy, or necessity. They give speeches explaining why the cruel thing they just did was actually the right thing. They turn their sins into part of their identity as noble or righteous or doing what must done. Aegon does not do this. When he does something cruel, he does not pretend it was noble. He does not give a speech about why he had to. He just does it. And then he has to live with the version of himself that did it. That does not make him better than the others. It makes him more honest about who he is. And in a show where everyone is constantly polishing their own image, that kind of honesty is striking, even when what he is being honest about is awful. His drinking is not just a flaw the show is mocking. It is a coping mechanism for a man who never learned how to cope. The show shows us over and over that Aegon is overwhelmed by his role and has zero tools to handle it. So he drinks, he runs, he distracts himself with sex and parties and the kind of attention that does not require him to be anything other than rich and famous. He is not a king. He is a scared man wearing a crown, and he reaches for whatever quiets the panic. His cruelty toward women, the worst part of him, also has a clear source. He was raised in a culture that taught him from a very young age that women were tools, threats, or burdens. That women existed to serve him, attack him, or be managed by him. That his power as a prince gave him the right to treat them however he pleased. That does not excuse him. He is still responsible for his choices, but it explains how someone becomes that. The show is not subtle about the world that shaped him. There is a real difference between understanding someone and excusing them. This video is doing the first. It is not doing the second. Now let me talk about the parts of Aegon's life that genuinely play as tragic, because there is more here than people realize. Start with his mother. Alicent did not raise Aegon out of love alone. She raised him as a political shield. From the time he was a small child, she was trauma dumping on him about the danger their family was in. She told him over and over that if Rhaenyra ever became queen, she would have them all killed. She forced him into the role of the heir, not because she thought he wanted it, not because she thought he was ready, but because she was terrified of what would happen if he was not. That kind of upbringing leaves marks. Aegon grew up understanding that his existence was a survival strategy. His worth was measured by his usefulness as a barrier between his mother and the woman she feared. He was never a child being prepared for a throne he might one day enjoy. He was a piece of armor being shaped to absorb a blow. His father openly favored his half-sister and her children. Viserys spent decades signaling that Rhaenyra and her sons were his real family. He brought them to court. He praised them in front of Aegon and his siblings. He defended them against accusations everyone could see were true. Aegon grew up watching all of this. He grew up understanding that no matter how hard he tried, his father would always reach for Rhaenyra first. His grandfather Otto treated him as a chess piece, not a grandson. Otto invested in Aegon to the exact degree that it served the Hightower cause. The day it stopped serving the cause, the investment would end. Aegon could feel that. He grew up knowing he was useful to his grandfather, and useful is not the same as loved. His brother Aemond was sharper than him at almost everything. Smarter, more disciplined, more capable of the cold focus that being a Targaryen seemed to require. In any other family, Aemond would have been the heir, and everyone in this family quietly knew it. Aegon had to live every day next to a younger brother the world considered the better version of him. His wife Helaena was distant. The show frames her as someone living more in visions than in her own marriage. Whatever Aegon was as a husband, and he was not a good one, he was also alone in that marriage in a way that the show keeps showing us. There is no warmth between them. There is no real partnership. There is just two people sharing the most powerful titles in the realm and barely sharing anything else. His children have been used as political pawns from the moment they were born. One of them, in the early war, is murdered in a way that breaks any father. Aegon does not handle the loss well. He handles it the way a man with no emotional skills handles grief, with panic, with rage, with reactions that hurt other people. He has never been taught how to mourn. He has never been taught how to be present with pain. So the pain comes out as chaos. And here's the detail that stays with me. Aegon does not have a single real human relationship in this show. The closest thing he has to a friend is the strangers he buys drinks for in taverns. He hides in brothels not just for sex, but because they are the only places where nobody is measuring him against a role. The only genuine bond he has with anything alive is Sunfire, his dragon, a creature that does not care about politics, succession, the throne, or any of the things that have shaped every other relationship in his life. Sunfire loves him for him, and the fact that the only living thing on Aegon's side is a dragon tells you exactly how isolated this man really is. He is failing, but he is failing the way real people fail, loudly, messily, in ways that hurt the people around him. There is no clean tragic arc to it. There is no neat aesthetic. He is just a man falling apart in real time, and everyone around him watches and either pities him, uses him, or looks the other way. That is one of the most painful kinds of failure to depict, and the show depicts it without flinching. So why do so many viewers love this character despite all of this? I think the answer is simple. We recognize him. If you got dropped into this world, really dropped into it, not in a fun fantasy way, but actually had to live in it, you would not be Rhaenyra. You would not be Daemon. You would not deliver a perfect monologue about destiny. You would not respond to crisis with regal composure. You would be Aegon, scared, overwhelmed, reaching for distractions, saying the wrong thing, drinking too much because the alternative is sitting with feelings you do not know how to name, making bad choices because nobody ever taught you how to make good ones. Most of us do not want to admit that. We like to think we would be the heroes of our own stories. We like to think we would rise to the occasion. But the truth is that when life puts most people under real pressure, they do not become Rhaenyra. They become Aegon. They reach for whatever is closest. They lash out at the people closest to them. They make decisions they will regret. That is why Aegon resonates. Not because anyone wants to defend his cruelty, but because he reacts to his situation the way an ordinary person would, with panic, with confusion, with a constant feeling of being in over his head. The other characters in the show feel like characters. They have purpose, they have arcs, they have lines. Aegon feels like a person who got stuck in a story he is not equipped to be in. And there is something deeply uncomfortable and deeply true about that. In a show this big and this serious, having one character who feels like a real person is rare. The show and the actor have built that together over time, and the audience felt it even when they could not explain it. So here is where I land. Aegon is not a good king. He is not a good husband. He is not a good man. The harm he has caused is real and should not be forgotten just because he is interesting. But he is the most human character in House of the Dragon. And in a show that constantly reaches for prophecy, destiny, dragons, and big speeches about the long arc of history, a human person on screen is worth a lot. The early framing wanted us to see a king to hate. The collaboration between the writing and the performance turned him into a man to think about, to argue over, to feel sorry for, even when we know we should not. That shift between the character we were first shown and the character we ended up watching is one of the most interesting developments in recent television. Aegon is not a hero. He is not a villain. He is something rarer in a show this loud. He is a person, a scared, broken, deeply flawed person trapped in a role he was never going to be ready for, raised by a mother who used him as a shield, surrounded by people who never really tried to help him, falling apart in front of an audience that was supposed to laugh at him and instead ended up watching him. The only living thing that ever loved him for him was a dragon, and somehow that says everything. That is what makes him the most fascinating character in House of the Dragon.